Welcome back, guys. Sherry here. Now, Tears of the Kingdom is just this vast open world game that can be extremely daunting and just downright frustrating sometimes. So I'm going to share some tips with you that the game just doesn't tell you. Not only is it going to help you in the early game, but it's probably going to help you throughout your entire gameplay. Now, one of the #1 questions I get asked the most is how to traverse the cold climate areas. Well, guys, there are several different ways we can do this. And in early game, one of the best ways is just to cook up some spicy peppers. We can get a low-level cold resistance for 12 minutes and 30 seconds just by cooking up 5 spicy peppers. And then you can go into your inventory, check the recipe, hit the Y button, and it's going to show you the dishes that you have made with those peppers, so you don't have to remember your recipes. And this is a great alternative until you can make it to Rito Village and get the Snow Quill armor. Now, we can find the Snow Quill tunic here in Lookout Landing right when you get off the Sky Island, but the entire set can be found in Rito Village. But this is not the only way we can stay warm. We can actually fuse a ruby to our shield or our weapon, and this can help keep you warm just by having it equipped. Now, it may not help you in the extreme cold areas, but it could help you out in a pinch. And fusing a ruby to your weapon, you can create a fire weapon. And this goes for the topaz and the sapphire as well. If you were to fuse a topaz, you can have a shock effect. If you were to fuse a sapphire, you can have an ice effect. And we can even use this to create ourselves some ice blocks if we need to make it across some water. But it's not just our weapons we can get this effect from. In Breath of the Wild, we had elemental weapons and elemental arrows. Here in Tears of the Kingdom, we don't, but that's okay because we can make our own. If you ever see Chu Chus, kill them and collect them because, guys, we can change their jelly into these elemental forms. If we just drop some of these Chu Chu jellies on the ground, and guys, we can drop up to 21 items out of our inventory before they start to disappear. So don't drop more than 21. But we can drop them on the ground, and we can actually use a shock fruit and just hit next to the Chu Chus. And we're going to have instant yellow Chu Chus. And you don't have to throw these in water. You can actually just throw them on the ground and shoot a shock fruit right next to them. And to get the red ones, all we have to do is throw them on a fire, or you could take them to the Elden Mountain and drop them on the ground. And to get the white ones, we can always just use a weapon that is fused with a sapphire. Or the way that I like to do it is I just like to find some really ice cold water and drop them in the water. And here all I did was fuse a couple of logs together. That way I could get down into the water to be able to collect them, because if we get in the water, we're going to take damage. And we can use a white Chu Chu or even some ice fruit. We can throw it on some lava and it will create a platform for us. And by the way, guys, if you don't know how to throw an item, you just want to hit the R button like you're going to throw your weapon, and then press up on the D-pad, and then just select whichever item it is that you would like to throw. But what about having enough arrows to even fuse these items too? Well, guys, we can pretty much collect arrows from any enemies that are shooting arrows at us. Regular arrows, not fire arrows or anything like that, just regular arrows. If you see enemies shooting arrows at you, just run around and collect the ones that you can. And when they stop spawning, all you have to do is run away from them. Just get them completely out of your line of sight. You may even want to zoom in on them just to make sure you can't see them, and then all you have to do is run back to them, and the arrows will start respawning. Now, you may only get 4 or 5 arrows from each enemy, but you can do this as many times as you would like. Now, the arrows may not spawn immediately when you run back, so just give them a second. And it is a very slow, tedious process, but it is a consistent way to get arrows. And now you have your own fire, shock, and ice arrows. But let's talk about the map for just a minute. There are 3 layers to our map. We have the sky, the surface, and the depths. Now in the sky, it's going to show our islands and any of those gumball machines that you have found. If you just scroll over those, it's going to show you what they offer. Now on the surface, of course, we have our towers and our shrines. But what you'll notice is if you will go to your depths map and look right underneath of a shrine that you have gotten on the surface, that is where a light root is going to be. And a light root is what we need to illuminate the depths. So anytime you find a shrine on the surface, just go to your depth map and put a marker there. That way you know there's going to be a light route there, and it's going to help you navigate the depths a lot easier. Like right here, I'm underneath a light route. But if we go to our surface map, you can see that there is a shrine here. So guys, you really need to use this to help navigate your way around down here. And when you're trying to collect items, use your Ultra Hand because everything is going to glow. Now we can also use our Ultra Hand and we can reach hard to reach items. So if there's something on a cliff that you just can't get to, try using your Ultra Hand. Or if there is a cliff or something that you can't get to, like this cliff I couldn't climb. It was covered in ice and I couldn't climb it. So all I did was attach 2 boxes and then I held them in the air with Ultra Hand for a few minutes and then I sat them down. And then I used the recall ability on them, and when they raised back up into the air, I used the ascend ability, and I just went through the bottom of them. Now guys, this is a great little trick you can use to kind of reach those hard to reach areas. Or if you happen to have a rocket, just fuse that to your shield. Now you can get the rockets in the Sky Island right above Hyrule Field. Or if you have a spicy pepper, just shoot it with a fire arrow. That will also create a gust of wind and allow us to get up in the air. But now let's talk about some battle tactics. Guys, Muddle Buds are one of my favorite. You can shoot that into a group of enemies, it will confuse them, and then you can just sit back and watch them wail on each other. Now, Puff Shrooms, we can shoot that into a group of enemies, and it will create this big cloud of smoke. So then we can just run up behind them and get a sneak strike. And don't forget about using your recall ability when enemies throw objects at you. Guys, this is just a great way to send objects back. And using a Dazzle Fruit, they will all drop their weapons and they just kind of sit there for a second. So that creates a perfect opportunity for you to go up and wail on them. And when you see these enemies that look like they have armor on, you may want to take a bomb flower and blow their armor off first before you engage in battle with them. Now when you run across one of these battle talus that has the enemies that are on top, I like to take the enemies out first that are on top. Now if you attack from up high, you can still land on top of him and just kind of wail on him. But if you are trying to attack him from the ground, I like to use one of the eyeballs from the bats. It'll hit the stone and then the talus is going to fall forward. When he falls forward, we just need to run up on him and we can actually use the ascend ability. And we can go right through the fort and get up on top and then we can wail on him. And when you defeat one of these guys, they're actually going to drop you a very nice stone, a heart-shaped stone that you can fuse to your weapons. Now, regardless of which kind of talus you're trying to fight, the object that we want to do is hit the stone on top of his head, which stuns him, but it makes him fall forward. Just don't let him fall forward on you. But we can also blow their arms off. And if we blow their arms off, that will also stun them, causing them to fall forward. And all we have to do is climb up on top of him and wail on him. But now we can actually ascend through him. You just have to be careful and don't let him, as he's going down to pick his arms back up after they're either blown off or whatever, don't let him fall forward on you. But we can ascend through him and then we can just get up on top and wail on him. And after you defeat him, he's going to drop you a nice, pretty, heart-shaped, luminous stone that you can attach to your weapons. But now, if you don't know where to find the bats to get these eyeballs, bats come out at night. But another good place to find bats are in the caves. So if you see a bunch of bats like this, just hit them with a bomb flower and you're going to get all kinds of eyeballs. And if you don't know how to find the caves, whenever you see a blurpy sitting around, don't shoot it, just leave him alone and follow him. He's going to lead you straight to a cave. But now one of the best ways to find the caves is if you ever see one of these big cherry blossom trees sitting around, just drop some fruit in this little bowl. Now the Lord of the Mountain, he's going to appear for just a second, but then you're going to see all of these caves light up. And they're actually going to stay lit for a very long time. But I recommend just looking through your scope, putting some pins on them, putting a stamp on them, and then you can just take your time and go explore all of these caves. But now let's talk about the depths for a minute. Now you should have some bright bloom seeds because they are laying around everywhere. You should have been collecting those but we can fuse one of those with our arrows and shoot it off into distance. That way we can light up an area. But when you see these big glowing things, you want to interact with them because they are light roots. And when you interact with them, they're going to light up an entire area, and it's going to open up a portion of your map. Now guys, these light roots, they're scattered all throughout the depths. But in between, in the dark areas, you want to use your bright bloom seeds to shoot up into the air so that you can see until you can find them. Now, when you do find them, I highly suggest you put pins on them because it is so easy to get turned around down here. And I also highly suggest that you use Ultra Hand when searching for materials because everything will glow. But now, if you shot a bright bloom seed somewhere and then all of a sudden it goes dark, well, that's because these little guys right here, they're called little frogs. They're digging them up. Hell, they might be eating them. I don't know. But they're getting rid of them. And if they see you and you run away from them, they're going to chase you. But if you'll just turn around and go towards them, they'll start backing up and then they're easy to kill. But you can also kill them easily with an ice weapon, and they're going to drop Zonai. And when you see these shadowy images that are up on top of like these rock pillars, you might want to go up there and grab their weapons because these weapons, they have not been tarnished by the gloom. And if you'll use your Ultra Hand and just look around, there are lots of large rocks that you can fuse these weapons to. And this will come in real handy when farming Zonite because there is just a plethora of this to be found down here in the depths. And when you run across one of these guys, don't be too intimidated because they're kind of like a cross between a Helix and a Stone Talus. But now they will start sucking some wind in. You need to be careful, just kind of get away from him. But all we have to do here is hit him in the eye. He's going to fall to the ground, and then we have to get on his back. And we have to bust all of this ore-looking stuff on the back of him. And you have to bust all of it to kill him. But I do suggest giving it a try. Just save your game before you engage in battle with him. That way you don't lose anything. But he will drop a large crystallized charge. And that is equal to 20 normal crystallized charges, and we need those so that we can get some extra battery cells to operate our Zonai devices. But you're also going to run across just some regular encampments, and inside of these encampments there's going to be these tubular looking things, and I think they're called likes. Well, I don't think they like fire because I hit one with a red Chu Chus and it ended up, I guess, sticking its tongue out. That's what I'm going to go with. But it's like this big red ball. But if you hit that, it will stun it, and then you can go up and wail on it. And all of these muddle buds that we've been collecting down here in the depths, these are great to use in these encampments because then you can just sit back and watch them beat up on each other. And you're also going to notice some bokoblins that have armor on. Now, you can try to chip away at them with arrows if you want to, but all of these bomb flowers that we've been collecting, those work great because we need to bust the armor off before we can do any real damage to them. But what if you get hit by some of these guys down here? Well, what you're going to notice is not only are you going to take damage, but your hearts, it's going to look like you've got a crack that goes down the middle of them. And that's because you're going to have gloom damage. And when you have gloom damage, even if you eat something, you're not going to recover your hearts. However, there is a plant that we can get called a sundelion. We can find these in chests, but typically they're all over the Sky Islands. But we can cook with this, and it will help restore our depleted health due to gloom. And if you happen to have one of those portable cooking pots that you got out of the gumball machines, that can really help you out in a pinch, and you can cook that while you're down here in the depths. But the best way to restore the gloom damage is to actually run underneath one of the light roots. However, that will only heal the gloom damage. You're still going to have to eat something to restore your hearts. When you're trying to traverse the terrain in the depths, you can't really run through the gloom, but there's actually some Stalhorses down here, and you can grab one of those and ride right through the gloom without taking any damage. And the beauty of it is there's never any sunlight, so that means they never die. And I don't know that you would actually need it, but if you were to feed this Stalhorse an Endura carrot, it will give it a few extra spurs. And if you want to be able to find these Stalhorses, here is the chasm that's in Hyrule Field. And right here is the Nisoi. I don't know. I guess that's how you say that. Light root. Right here are the horses. And here is the Liasis light root. Well, anyway, I don't know how you say those, but they're not too far from the Hyrule Chasm. But now let's go over Ultra Hand just a little bit. Now, I'm just going to build a simple vehicle, but I want to show you guys something. Whenever you have something and you're using Ultra Hand on it and you're flipping it around and you can't get it to work quite right, just hit the ZL. When you do, it's going to just totally flatten it and level it out. But now I'm actually going to use the bigger piece that I just stood up on its side for the actual vehicle. This smaller piece, I'm only attaching it so that I could use it to stabilize it while I put the wheels on it. But now take a look at these tires. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but they actually have arrows on them. The tires themselves, and they've also got an arrow in the middle. So when you're building a vehicle, just make sure those arrows are all pointing in the same direction. And you'll also notice that each tire has these little knobs that'll stick out from the wheels. You want to make sure when you're attaching these tires to anything that you only attach the knob part. Because if you actually attach the tire, well, then it's not going to turn. So now I'm just going to pull my smaller piece, my stabilizing piece off. But now when you're doing this and you're trying to pull something off, only grab the piece that you're wanting to remove, because if you grab the whole thing and you shake it, then the whole thing's just going to fall apart. So now I'm just going to flip it over so I can put the tires on the other side, but I'm still going to put my little stabilizing piece back on there because I don't know if you've tried to build any of these things. Every time it'll fall over, there's no stability. But again, don't forget, when you're putting tires on the other side, just make sure all the arrows are pointing in the same direction. Okay, so now I'm going to remove my smaller piece, the stabilizer, but now I'm just going to grab that piece because if I was to grab the bigger piece and shake it, all of the tires are going to fall off. So just be careful when you're trying to remove something from a build. Okay, so I'm going to stick a headlight on it, which they actually have available for us over here, and then I'm going to put some controls on it. I accidentally stuck the controls to it, but as you can see, I just grabbed it by itself and I can move it easily. And if you happen to have some large bright bloom seeds, we can attach those to the vehicle as well, like just in case they don't have a light or something available or you don't happen to have one. But now you do have to hit the seed to activate it, but when you do that, the vehicle's also going to move, so make sure and hit it again to turn it off. Now if your battery starts getting low, you can jump off before it drains all the way down, and then your battery will charge a lot faster. But there's something else I've heard a lot of people complaining about, and that's the fact that they can't find any decent weapons at the very beginning of the game. Well, thanks to Playing with Story and Steven for letting me know, we can actually make our way to the castle, and there's no enemies in the castle, and there are lots of good weapons here. Just come through the front door of the castle, make your way up the stairs, and right behind this rubble, you're going to find a Royal Guard's Claymore. And then we can also find a Royal Guard's Bow. And then just make your way up the stairs on the other side, turn around, and on this ledge, we're going to find the Royal Guard's Spear. And if you just turn around again at the top of the stairs, you're going to find a Royal Guard's Sword and a Royal Guard's Shield. So guys, these are some great weapons just to get at the very beginning of the game. And if you'll just make your way up top, you will find a Dusk Bow. Now guys, I know the royal weapons will respawn after a blood moon, but I'm unsure about the Dusk Bow, so if someone knows, leave us a comment below. And one more thing while you're here in the castle collecting weapons, if you shoot both of these torches, you will reveal a chest and it will have the champion's leathers in it. But I know the castle is floating and some of you might be, well, how do we get there? Just jump from Lookout Landing and you can glide there. Now I have the glide suit on. If you don't know where to get it, you can click the link in the upper right hand corner. I'll also leave a link in the description, but you don't have to have it. You may need some stamina food, and you can make that just by cooking up some crickets and monster parts. However, you can pull some wings out of a capsule out of your inventory. You can get the wings on Sky Island, but guys, this took me a couple of tries, but it's really a handy little trick, especially if you're about to run out of stamina. But you may want to save your game and practice, because I lost a few wings just trying to do it. But I found it easier just to look down and don't touch your left stick when you're pulling this out of your inventory, because it is kind of difficult to jump up on it. But did you guys know when you're on these things, you can actually steer them, even if you don't have a way to steer them. If you move to the right, it's going to move to the right. You can walk to the left and it will turn to the left. If you want it to nosedive, just get on the front of it. Or if you want to pull the nose up, just walk to the back. But we can actually almost land these things exactly where we want them. But I hope this video helps, guys, and thank you so much for over 24,000 subscribers. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys next time.